Welcome, everyone, to the third episode of the Lost Cause podcast, the only podcast by players and for players in the Lost Woods Draft League, hosted by the incomparable Leaf. I'm Jacob, coach of the St. Louis Sandshrews.
I'm Kian, coach of the Massachusetts Mareeps.
I'm Anthony.
I'm Chris.
I'm Anthony, coach of the Lexington Luxrays.
I'm Chris. Thank you. I'm coach of the Macho Mudkips.
We actually talked about right before who was going to win the three-way speed tie of introductions right after Jacob. I'm glad I came out first, and
Yeah, no, Kian, you got to be proactive on that one.
I'm always losing those speed ties, man.
Yeah, man. And it was an eventful week in the Lost Woods Draft League this past week. I think there are a lot of things to talk about, but first, as is tradition now, we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Just going through our sets very quickly, and we'll just start with mine because I think there's already been a lot said about my set against the Worcester WooSawks, coached by Mohammed Lumishen. Um, if you really want to hear a super in-depth analysis, you can go watch Mohammed's video. I made a video about it as well, of course. But Mohammed had a little interview with me afterwards, and we talked for like an hour and a half. I think about 45 minutes of it made it actually into the video that he made, but just a super fun set. I definitely really keyed into what makes my team, I think, very fun and unique, and that's the pledge moves. I was really hoping to get a lot more out of the pledge moves this week. I lost the one game that I actually brought my Masquerada and Skeletorge to at the same time and set up the Sea of Fire, but thankfully the back half of my team was just that good. Thankfully, my Garganackle, Arbok, and Gotharita were just great into what Muhammad brought. Nothing on his team really beats Arbok. He has a psychic type, but there's no psychic move here. It's just Alluring Voice. So Arbok got in game one, couple of KOs, just pretty free next to the Gotharita to click gunk shots pretty effectively because I can't haze because of the Murkrow's, or I can't coil because of the Murkrow's haze. The Garganackle just sits on everything because he brought a bunch of physical attackers, which his team is primarily physical anyway, which is why I went the double curse and coil setup moves. But really the MVP was Gotharita, and if you do watch the set, you'll see why. This Pokemon is so bulky. The Terra Dark Foul Play hits everything for pretty good damage. It and of course the Heal Pulse, the Trick Room, it just has everything you could ever want out of a closed team sheet draft mon. It keeps your opponent stuck on the field. So, for example, this Murkrow doesn't have a ton of offensive pressure. I just got to leave it alone in game 3 and start picking up KOs around it because, that's just a dead slot for Muhammad. I definitely got caught off guard in game 2 by how much damage the Shiftry did just at +1. But we were able to pull it out in game 3 and move on to 2-0 on the season. So it felt pretty good.
Yeah, I think this was a really good first week for that Arbok. I was surprised at how tanky it was, how much damage it was putting out, and you weren't even using it like the typical Intimidate because, to be frank, you didn't really need it. I mean, there's Dragapult and Metagross right there, which came, that don't care about that Intimidate. So I think the way that you built it was really intentional, and you got to take advantage of it. Oh, and competitive. Yeah, that one. Thank you. Yeah, it was just, there wasn't much of a use case for that, and while Unnerve didn't really bring much to the table, I think being able to at least have that option into this team was really significant, and I loved seeing that thing in action.
Yeah, I was talking a lot about how much I wanted this Arbok, over the last week and a half before I was actually able to pick it up, and I'm so glad it got to show out. And I'll tell you all right now, absolutely not even a third of the things that Arbok can do. This thing has some insane coverage and support moves. It's awesome. I love Arbok so much. It's gonna go nuts in this league. This is a guy I'm so excited about. And at least with Unnerve, it fits with the theme of control the board this week. I was able to just make sure no surprise resist berries or citrus or mago berries, things like that. I felt very comfortable when I had Gotharita, Arbok, Garganackle, Skeledirge on the field. And that's the most important thing to me in draft, is feeling good. Um, moving on pretty quickly though to our next set, and Kian. I think you recognize this one.
Yeah, this is me. I did yap about this, like the kind of process of my team building a lot on my channel, but I am really proud of what I ended up coming up with here. Jacob noted something that like Porygon 2 can kind of just be Trick Room Recover, Terra Blast, and then between Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, and it'll just be the best mon. Like it's kind of hard to deny. But I was really happy coming up with Trace for the week because there are so many valuable abilities on John's team that I could have taken advantage of between Shield Dust, Dancer, Mind's Eye, Regenerator, Moxie even. Like the only thing I didn't really want to trace was Strong Jaw, but I ended up tracing it game 1 turn 1 and it told me that Bruxish wasn't dazzling. And that was really important information for me. I was really excited to bring that and have that option. I also think that I very much close to predicted everything that John was going to be bringing this week. I predicted that it was going to be like Life Orb, Blood Moon, Clear Amulet, Quaquaval. I had all of this information just in my head going into it, which is why I opted for Rockhead, Hisui, and Arcanine, because there wasn't really much of a use for going with Intimidate. And if I wanted to launch off like quick insta-kill head smashes or flare blitzes, that can be really important to not take like 100 damage if I wanted to Oko a Noivern, for example. But that wasn't even necessary because Hisui and Arcanine, single mother of 3, paying the bills, flinching with Rock Slide like 8-9 times during that set, when it had no business even doing that. Even when game 1 was lost, it's like, let me just double flinch anyways. It was insane. Admittedly, like Houndstone didn't really end up coming to this matchup, which is sad because I thought it's a really silly little guy, and there was more so as pressure for the physical side of things, which I ended up not even seeing. And then the Grimmsnarl is something else I was super proud of coming up with. I found out, like, as I've been mentioning, the physical side, like, I have Houndstone for, so why not just prep myself with, like, Light Screen and then Fake Tears to support my non-download Porygon 2 and to also potentially click into my Serperior to just get free +2 special defense. And Misty Terrain was really cool here because of not only Fungus, but Flame Orb Conkeldurr that I was covering my bases for. And so just making sure that I wasn't going to get stunted on by any sort of status. And then Serperior, pretty classic Covert Cloak just to dodge Fake Out. AV Empoleon with Vacuum Wave just for like a last second priority move, which we'll never know if it won me game 3 or not. Yeah, that was my team. I'm really proud of the tech that I came up with on this team. It didn't admittedly, it didn't feel too coherent going into the match, but what does that matter when you have Rock Slide?
Also, I would like to point out, I think the final tally was actually 8 Rock Slide flinches, if I counted correctly in those matches. Like Kian said, Arcanine, Hisui, single mother of 3 trying to pay the bills. Rent's paid.
Times 3. Rent times 3.
Exactly. And I think another important thing to notice, everyone in chat was confused as to why the Revelation Dance was not going off with Oricorio. And I was like, oh shit. Because we found out it was Choice Specs. Choice Spectacles, the little goggles, that big damage from those Quiver Dances. And it's not going to go off because it's locked into Quiver Dance because of that Dancer ability. John had a great idea, obviously, with... Ooh, I didn't even realize Feather Dance was on there. Quiver Dance from Rabombi, super awesome. Really meshes together the dancing and Trick Room archetype. But Choice Specs, I was like, oh no! It can't click Revelation Dance. But yeah, I thought John's team was so cool, and the way Kian prepared for it, I thought this was like awesome. Big fan of side self Fake Tears. I'm waiting for that tech to pop up. I think P2 in this metagame is broken as well. I'm so glad that came.
Yeah,
I think
I'm really happy about it. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I think when like for the choice specs or Oricorio, like I do not blame John. I feel like that is something that can easily be overlooked with that combination of dancer and choice specs. Like you don't really think of that when you're planning for that. So I at least he knows now, and he that is scary that he knows that now because now he can actually get that Oricorio built up and doing what it actually is supposed to do, and that's very scary.
Yeah, it's now just like boom, like he can just run Life Orb on it and then be
Right.
fine, or just like anything. Yeah, I will say I'm really sad that I didn't get the opportunity to switch Empoleon in on a double feather dance because that would have like made my week. That would have been so good, just instant +6. But yeah, it was a really good set. I think yeah, John brought amazing tech. This was just kind of I think game 2 was definitely lost to like not really knowing that tech and also Rock Slide happening. And then game 3, I mean, I guess Empoleon like did his share of the bills too.
Yeah, there of course was not there's a lot of RNG. There's a lot of luck just happening throughout that set. But I do think that Kian wins that, you know, at least the majority of the time, all things being equal. I think just like this prep, like you've said, is awesome. I would have loved to see the fluffy Houndstone come. It really just wasn't the matchup for it with all these special attackers. And of course the Blood Moon Ursaluna that you don't really want to click Poltergeist into. But I think, yeah, there are just so many cool things. And of course, any team that has a Porygon 2 on it, it's gonna be hard to break through. It's so good.
Yeah.
But we can
All
move
right.
on then. Yeah, move on to the third set that we're gonna talk about. As it'll be Chris's time to take it away.
Yeah, so this one definitely, in my eyes, seems a little more cut and dry. I think um, prepping for this team was very difficult. There's a lot of things that can stop the archetype of my team. There's a lot of water coverage with it being a rain team, and there was a Gastrodon to stop that. There's a lot of things with priority that could affect the team, whether it's like a fake out or Graphia using prankster moves like a prankster taunt, and there's a Farigiraf there to stop it. Uh, even down to the core of the team being the weather, there's a Tyranitar to stop that. It was just a lot of different things to have to play around. Um, and so I kind of started by thinking that I didn't really want to bring Pelipper. I think other than like the Rillaboom and the Tyranitar, I didn't think Pelipper was doing too much. In hindsight, I probably should have brought it anyway. Um, I think just bring what's good and play what's good. Although, yeah, I opted for the Graphii to have a dual weather move set, and so my plan for his team was I noticed that there were some pretty good Pokemon that had fire weaknesses, and I wanted to see if I could pull off a Terrafire Terrablast Basculegion female, which notably has a higher special attack than its counterpart. Um, and so I wanted to see if I could pull that off. Um, and it didn't go as well as I wanted it to. With terrors in play, it was really hard to kind of like position that and actually get that off. I think I definitely played way too linear to what my plan was supposed to be. Um, and yeah, his team, he just has very good Pokemon. Like there's a whole Rillaboom right there who is a very very present Pokemon in any metagame that it's in. A Farigiraf like that can do so much to support the team. Tyranitar and Corviknight is a very very good duo to have. Just a lot of really good Pokemon and pretty hard to break through. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much how I will say I think the MVP of the set, at least in game one, was the Bronzong. I was able to get that up to +6 eventually, and it fended pretty well in a 2v1 against the Rillaboom and the Corviknight. The Rillaboom wasn't really doing too much to it, barring crits, and luckily it wasn't getting any. And the Corviknight, unfortunately, did have bulk up, so it was able to boost and kind of go past those defense boosts. Um, but if that Bronzong was leftovers, I think that would have been pretty clear. Um, as long as, of course, no crits. But I think Bronzong was the MVP for this set.
Yeah, I will say, and this is something that we've talked about too. I do think Pelipper should have come this week. Um,
I agree.
and also important to note that in the actual game, Alex Gastrodon was Sticky Hold. It was not Storm
Yes.
Drain. It's closed team sheet, so it doesn't really matter. We can say that Alec was trying to call Chris's bluff. He's not going to click a water move into this Gastrodon, so I'm just going to get the effectively 2 abilities for it. Um, in reality, it was just a mistake on Alec's end, but you know,
And it worked.
it's
I did
important to
click
know.
play rough over liquidation.
Exactly.
So,
Should have called his bluff.
yep.
But I do think that the double weather Grafia, I think this Grafia set is nasty. I think this is so cool. Because you do have, your Rain Dance for your Azu, you have your Sunny Day for your Basket Legion, and both of those things really disrupt what Tyranitar wants to do. I think it would have been very cool, especially if you would have brought, something like a Hurricane on the Vivian, which already with the Compound Eyes is very accurate, but would be 100% accurate in the Rain. The Rain, of course, great for this Bronzong too, in case there's any fire moves, somewhere tacked onto Alex's side. But yeah, I think the prep is really cool. I think just in practice, if you're playing against the VGC staples, it's
Yeah.
a little bit tough to break through those things sometimes.
Yeah. Definitely could have done more of like actual like lineup prep. But I'm very happy with the prep that I did do.
Yeah, I really like all of the pieces and how they came together on this team. I think like prepping against the team in theory is like always difficult to do because really these Pokemon are capable of anything, but I think all of these sets have like a ton of promise and are really cool. Like especially that Grafii. I know that there's like a way that you will be able to utilize that really well going throughout the season. And Bronzong, of course, like I do think Grassy Seed was getting a little bit cute. Like I think lefties definitely was the call there, especially I know Alec was talking about like didn't even think about lefties Bronzong, which is why Crunch was there instead. And that's something that like I mean, hindsight is 2020, but like I think that this team still has so much potential despite like the start against like two very tough teams. And I'm really excited to see what you do next week or this coming week.
Yeah. As we've always said, the cutest guys go 0-2. We've always said that. I will say the last thing, um, while we're praising your prep, Chris, I do just want to, like, if the Gastrodon was Storm Drain, I feel like Choice Band on Azu is, uh, I guess, a little bit of an interesting choice. Outside of the fact that Banded Ice Spinner probably Oko's Rillaboom.
Right. So the I didn't do I didn't do any like specific calculations for it, but the kind of thought process was if I was going to bring Azumarill, it would be some sort of like Bronzong and like Palmot or Bronzong and Grafii lead to set up Trick Room and then try to, get him to either like switch some Pokemon around or get some knockouts and then hopefully like force that Gastrodon out. And so by the time that happens, I'm able to, see if I am able to go for a water move or not. But yeah, in hindsight, it definitely it could have been like a life orb or like a different source of damage boosting, but I figured I would probably be able to play around it pretty well. And like banded play rough is still going to be doing a lot, but yeah, the in the rain liquidation, like that's really good damage. So in hindsight, maybe it should have been, more flexible.
No, honestly, after I said it though, I get it. Because again, like you do just want to do as much damage as possible. And the cool thing is that yeah, you have to play rough the Gastrodon one time. And yes, the Rillaboom or this Corviknight is gonna knock you out in return. Yeah, never mind. I was thinking if you
I
had
didn't have Revival Blessing.
if you
Yeah.
had Revival Blessing on Clawmont, though, then you bring it back and you get 2 Banded Azus.
Yeah.
Okay. That's me being silly. I'm sorry about that.
I do like the idea though.
The idea though, I was gonna say week 6, explicitly not week 6, but any other week of the season, that's gonna go crazy. But Anthony, tell us about you.
That's me.
The prep master.
A prep master no more, apparently. I faced Ronald, aka Oxygen, in the Discord server. To say that this team had me stressed is an understatement. They had Wheezing Slacking, along with a triage of fighting, fire, and dark types to really hurt me, as well as a Trick Room mode, including Hatterene, which is Life Orb, crazy stuff, crazy damage, Indeedee as well to set up Psychic Terrain, and Amoonguss, which I was also scared of, because I was like, oh, okay, that kind of sucks, because I can't immediately Final Gambit you. So going into this specific week, I was very, very scared of Wheezing and Slacking. And I was like, okay, what can I do to counteract that? Talk to our buddy Colby, testing, goated live streams. And I'm like, hey, dude, I don't know what to do against Wheezing Slacking. And we crafted, put a little, crafting table down, see what we had. I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot I had Altaria. And we ended up coming up with a Perish Song, good Perish Pokemon. I think this ended up being max bulk, just max HP, max defense, just to counter that Slacking. Because that Slacking with no counters is going to go crazy. And that's actually also why I put Terra Fighting Low Kick onto Weavile, because I think that OHKOs. But either way, Cotton Guard, Breaking Swipe, and Roost were its final moves, as well as lefties. And I was like, okay, I can manage this, I can play around it, I can go through Perish Song once I get rid of that Slacking, and then Wheezing can just sit there. I originally made Terra Electric Primarina just to have neutralities and other stuff like that. A little goofy, nice neutral Terra type. Wasn't weak to anything, wasn't strong against anything. And I actually kept Misty Terrain on there. I was like, huh, okay, this not only counteracts Indeedee, this also gets rid of the possibility of Expanding Force doing more damage, plus, on top of that, you can actually negate Spore. I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, I'll keep Misty Terrain. So I opted to keep Hyper Voice Throat Spray with Perish Song and just let Primarina go wild. And I actually did a nice little tech. I put Ability Shield on Gothitelle to get rid of the Slacking's ability, which is Truant. And I kept my Shadow Tag, obviously. Need Perish Song, Perish Trap. But Wheezing and Slacking didn't come. Nor Amoonguss, which is, it's a plus. Blaziken and Barrascuda were scary as well. Hatterene and that Indeedee, man, oh my god. Am I glad I kept Misty Terrain on that Primarina? E-Force was going to do a ton of damage. Luckily, King Gambit pulled through. My goat, my personal goat, this entire draft so far. I believe is at 15 KOs right now. I put Ironhead actually on it to counteract, not really Hatterene in and of itself, but more so to get around stuff like, I think it's just Psychic Terrain. But yeah, Ironhead actually proved useful. Swords Dance, Kowtow, what more can I say? I actually put Fighting on there, or sorry, Terra Fire, to get rid of stuff like Blaziken, Colossal, just take some not very effective hits. But yeah, this was a very, very hard match, and I think Ronald was awesome playing. We'll go into this into the tech of the week, but game 2, where it was a 2v1, stuff happened. Go watch the VOD, watch the video. Stuff happened, I almost lost. But long live Bulky Goth. Yeah, this was a really hard team to prep for, and I think it was super intuitive of Ronald to put all these pieces together into something that I would not expect. And I just saw Calm Mind, Baton Pass, and DD, and I haven't looked through the OTS. I didn't know that. That's sick. But yeah, it was a fun best of 3. Went to game 3. That's all I can say.
Yeah, these were such cool teams on both ends. And the little like speed tier game that you played with the King Gambit in the size spam mode was like they set up Trick Room and then your King Gambit just proceeded to be slower, which was crazy. Yeah, Star Raptor, such a classic mon here, just such a threat, especially when you threaten that Trick Room. You can just final gambit anything that threatens the Goth, get Trick Room, switch in your sweeper, and then it's wraps. The one thing that I'm really sad we didn't get to see was that Blaziken, because that set is nasty. Koba Berry, Flame Koba Berry I haven't seen since like the Sword and Shield days. Like this thing crazy.
That thing is
Flamethrower or
gross, and I love it. It is so beautiful.
just
It's
thinking
so-
Protect and Baton Pass, getting a free like +1 into something. Like I guess the Colossal and then flip turning your side and then getting Blaziken back in with a speed boost. Like there's so much that was unexplored on Ronald's side that's so cool.
Yeah, I think that is like the one. I don't know. The one regret I think we as viewers had was that we didn't get to see every Pokemon. I would have loved to see this Altaria do something. It was for the slacking, but this is sick. I love Cotton Card Breaking Swipe. I love physical attackers.
It just does things. Like it hits and then it dips.
I will say I did talk to Ronald a little bit about his Hatterene speed. Why it was because Anthony, you brought Min Speed King Gambit,
Yes.
and Hatterene with 0 investment should always underspeed that anyway, or I think at the very least it's a speed tie. But he actually had some speed investment in Hatterene. He was saying for the baton passes from Blaziken, so that if Hatterene was at +2, you'd be able to outspeed things like this Primarina. I can't remember specifically what he'd said he'd calced for it. It could have been +2, +3, things like that. But he did have speed investment in the Hatterene on purpose, which I think is so cool. Those are the kinds of techs that we talk about in Draft League that like that's sick. You're just making your base for 20 speed mon into something that is a fast sweeper outside of Trick Room, which is awesome.
Yeah, this is the most like cracked tail room tech that I've ever seen ever.
Definitely
It's so
seeing this. It's like seeing this in team preview, especially. I know what Colossal's doing here. I know what Bearskeet is doing here. I know the Psy Spam duo. Like I know what those Pokemon are doing, but seeing Blaziken, I was like, wait, why? Like why is this here? And like all of my prep came down crashing, and I was like, okay, I have to adapt to Ronald. 1, not bringing Amoonguss. 2, not bringing they did bring Psy Spam, sorry. Not bringing Wheezing Slacking. And 2 Cannon. Like, I mean that 2 Cannon set, that is cool. And I actually talked to Ronald about the whole speed interaction. And as of current, I'm not going to leak my King Gambit, but this is a hint, their Hatterene hit 51 speed. And I'm not going to say what I hit. I'm not going to say if it's a speed tie, because who knows. But yeah, King Gambit was extremely crucial in this matchup, no matter where it was. I'm kind of iffy on going Terrafire in general here. That was more of just like, oh yeah, I resist hits, yada yada. I don't go down to 1 Drain Punch from slacking, cool. But yeah, I definitely think I over-prepped, but that ended up helping me in the end because I was able to adapt easier to what Ronald was bringing. And I'm honestly kind of peeved that I didn't get to see the Aquajet into Colossal like the old Sword and Shield days. That's tech. I like it.
Yeah, I'll say extremely interesting that you're going to dox his Hatterene's whole speed stat and try to hide your own King Gambit after I think already said what it was.
Yeah, it's only fair.
Speaking in riddles, it is less than or equal to 51.
There are 3 numbers.
You blow my mind, Anthony.
Oh
my
love being
goodness.
here. But with that, I think we can part that a little bit And wouldn't you know it, it's the same team that we're looking at because we're introducing a new segment. Kian, I think only fair that you introduce it since it was your
Yeah.
idea.
So I heard from our lovely friends who are also in this draft league, they're like, "Oh, you guys are only talking about your teams and your sets? That's so boring." And so I was like, "Why don't we do something about that?" And so starts our new weekly segment, Tech of the Week, where we try to ignore this. We try to look at teams that aren't ours and talk about techs that we think are really cool going into matchups. We're starting with a team that we haven't yet looked at, but take it away.
This is a phenomenal transition. I also think, Chris, you were going to talk about this team.
I was. You're right. You're right. So I
We're out of
so I know we just talked about it. I really like, and I know the slacking wheezing didn't come, which is really sad because this was such a good tech for it. Was the ability shield on Gothitelle. I think the fact that it serves two purposes is in which like you get to keep your shadow tag so they can't switch out, but you also have the option to trick that to the slacking and just render not useless, but like you hurt it so much. Like it's such a cool tech. I think it's really really unfortunate that didn't come because that was something that would have been awesome to see.
I wanted to show it off so bad, but if you go watch the VOD or watch what Colby, aka Testing, just reviewed on their stream, it actually did help because I was in the same situation as Game 2 where I almost got KO'd by Explosion. I ended up tricking my ability shield onto Colossal and receiving the weakness policy, so my Staraptor could come in, finish the KO on the Colossal unharmed.
Still very
Huge.
cool. Yeah. Loved it.
Oh,
I
another
believe this was me. So, throwback. I was actually caught completely off guard. I was in a game 2 situation with Ronald. Explosion. That does damage. That really hurts. Especially Terra Normal at +2. Even with that explosion rework, how that damage is like calculated, that's gonna do damage. That hurts. That hurts so bad. And in game 2, I almost lost to it because they did not reveal explosion yet. And I hit them with a close combat into their Colossal. I was like, oh, I know their weakness policy, but that's an explosion. And I thought that was super cool tech because not only do you have a Ghost Terra on both Blaziken and Barraskewda, you also have a Steel Terra on Hatterene. Resisted. Okay, that's fine. It's not super effective against Steel types, so we're good. Explosion, Terra Normal at +2. Awesome tech. I love that. Like, I praised so much. I was DMing Ronald. I was like, you're a madman. Why would you do that? That's horrifying. Please stop. And he's like, yeah, I thought it was really cool. They have a lot of protects on their team. Honestly, like, why not click buttons? It works. Explosion almost lost me the entire set. But yeah, it's awesome tech. Sick tech. Sick tech Tuesdays.
Sick Tech Tuesdays.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. If it won't,
This will probably go up at like midnight on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I will say, Anthony, that explosion rework on the damage was a decade ago.
I am old and I started in black and white.
You're a
Dude, I was in
child.
like desert.
Yeah, aren't you like turning 15 like 2 weeks?
Next, this is the team that I picked out that I love. It's the District of Columbrian. Their prep, they played in week 2. They played a Hawks team, the Island Dragons. So this is what they're prepping against. It's the Archaludon Politoed, the team that I saw in week 1. And a lot of the same mons ended up coming. The Electabuzz, the Paldean Taurus, and the Indeedee. But I think the really cool thing that Sam did was say, I don't care about whatever you've got. This Archaludon that's going to have stamina. It's going to have the assault vest. It's going to be bulky. the Electabuzz that's going to have the Eviolite. You're just going to have a bunch of bulky mons and the potential for screens with this Indeedee. Sam decided that he was going to go Dragon Cheer, Terra Dragon next to his Sarina and his Gallade. And this Gallade with 2 moves that have high critical hit rates as well in Psycho Cut and Leaf Blade. So if you go the Dragon Cheer next to a Dragon type, that's a +2 stage to your critical hit rate, plus the +1 from the Psycho Cut and the Leaf Blade, those moves are now always going to hit as critical hits whenever Gallade clicks them after the Dragon Cheer. For Sarina, it's Clear Amulet, so you're not dropping your attack at all. So even if you don't get the Dragon Cheer off, you're still doing a ton of damage. But while you don't have, something like the Scope Lens that's going to guarantee your critical hits, you do have the Triple Axle that is going to give you 3 chances at a 50% crit rate. And that's already a move that's 120 base power if you get all 3 hits. If you start critting 1 or 2 of those hits, you're doing silly damage. This Archaludon, it's going to take neutral hits from, the Triple Axle. But if it takes, 1 or 2 crits on that Triple Axle, if it takes a critical Sacred Sword, or God forbid, it goes to Terra Fairy and has to take a neutral Psycho Cut in the terrain that your Indeedee so kindly set up for it, I think this Gallade specifically was perfect for this week. And while we don't have the VOD for this week, I don't believe Sam or Hawk recorded. We do know that Sam won 2-0, and I can imagine it was pretty convincing whenever you've got also the Scarf Sunny Day on Rotom to turn off the opposing rain. You've got, your own light screen and fake tears, freaking the lagging tail. Like, there are so many cool things. I just love Dragon Cheer, but the rest of this team also is just awesome. It just rocks. I love this. A great way for Sam to bounce back after, kind of a heartbreaker week 1, low key.
If this team was raw chicken, or if this team was chicken, this shit is raw. I love this. Like, Dragon Cheer Salamence on top of Life Orb, Scarf Rotom Heat with Raw Thunder, Sunny Day even, now you force a pivot, and then Gallade with Sharpness. This is cinema. I love this. This is draft. Like, this is insane.
Yeah, as someone who has never, ever in the history of ever been afflicted by auto crit moves, I do think that this tech looks really, really cool. Outside of that, Clefairy, standard. I'm gonna let that one sit for a sec. Standard Clefairy, you can't go wrong with it. It's kind of just like the P2 of this team. Cute little Eviolite holder that can really do no wrong with its standard set. And I think it really just ties it together very well. Yeah, this Rotom is so wild. I love everything about this team, and I'm just looking forward to the pieces that Sam continues to build on throughout the weeks.
Yeah. I love Sam C, man. It's so cool. And I'll move on to the last team that we're going to talk about, Kian.
Yeah, so for my tech of the week, I picked the team from Alex's Azalea Ampharos going against AJ's Toronto Toads, which is that an auto crit Hydreigon? Weird. Anyways, I really like the tech here because based on all of the threats that kind of made themselves apparent in my match against AJ, which frankly a good bit of them came in this match, had a really good plan into that team. I know AJ was very scared of Foul Play Umbreon. That ended up getting brought. The big thing here that I'm a fan of is the Glamora, because honestly, until right now, I did not know that Glamora got Dazzling Gleam. And that being able to just instantly delete the Hydreigon before it can even set up a Focus Energy or even get a Draco off. Yeah, if it's too busy setting up. It was really cool. I also think that Alex's team here is really just like the draft team that cried wolf, because one of these days he is going to bring that Dozogiri and absolutely stomp with it. But until then, he's just going to continue to elaborate on all of these interesting pieces that are really unknown but really strong in this closed team sheet, like the Electrode with Covert Cloak, fastest thing there. Electro Web Volt Switch, Screech, like welcome back, Sandy Shocks. Everything on this team is so cool. And big fan of Tough Claws, Dusk Lycanroc, especially running it with Howl next to Clear Amulet Arcanine. Like looking at this team, you don't really assume at first glance that Arcanine is going to be a support when you already have Umbreon. Like it kind of do similar things, I feel, but like in terms of damage reduction. But having that Howl option to boost up 2 Intimidate immune Pokemon and then just a support and 2 tough special threats on top of it. This team is constructed really well, and it's really making me reconsider how I ranked Alex because he continues to like blow our expectations out of the water with the prep that he does.
Yeah, I think that like at least at the start of the season, that was like the big I feel like criticism of this team was, it's done those with Tatsugiri in draft, like they're it's very iffy, but like the like Alex is doing such a great job at like showcasing how good the rest of the team can be. Like it's not just Dondozo Tatsugiri. Like there's so much more to this team and like such a good job with all these sets and like just showing what the whole team can do.
And Solo Dozo's great here.
Yeah,
Solo
yeah.
Dozo with Howl support, all of a sudden now you're doing big damage with this guy, and you have another Pokemon on the field next to it. I'm in the same boat as Kian. I am fully now on board this team. I also love that, it was Howl Arcanine next to Lycanroc week 1. Now it's Howl Lycanroc next to Arcanine. It's a couple of the same mons, but just switching up the way they're used just a little bit makes this matchup a lot safer for Alex.
If I squint my eyes hard enough, this is just Dondozo Tinglu. I just realized that. It's kind of crazy. It has Howl, Solo Dozo. Umbreon's basically Tinglu.
Welcome back, Gouging Fire.
He's split into 2 parts.
I was going to say, we don't have Gouging Fire in this format, but we can replace him on aggregate. We have a Lycanroc, we have an Arcanine.
I will say, shout out to AJ for somehow winning against this like closed team sheet demon of a team. Brought a lot of similar things that we saw in his match against me. I think is really cool. Kind of playing an information game, using similar tech is both parts predictable and unpredictable because who knows what you're gonna lean into and what you're gonna like, just like completely new tech like the Heat Wave on Hydreigon. Another thing, running Clear Amulet Hariyama to block Intimidate, but having 2 side Will-O-Whispers was really cool. I know he was really excited about that. Sunny Day Gyarados again. I don't really know what that was for. At least looking in the context of this team, didn't seem too crazy. I know he's a man who, honest, God-fearing man who does not gen his mons, so maybe it's just, leftover tech on the set, and it always helps in a Dondozo. And Sylveon with Weakness Policy. Does something proc that?
I was trying to look
I
for
didn't
that,
see
I'm
it,
not gonna
no.
lie. Like the only thing that
Anyways,
I could think of was the Glamora.
Mortal
the other
Spin,
team.
I guess.
Yeah. Oh,
which
yeah.
did come,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure. It always comes on AV Glamora. Can you computer look? Yeah, Mortal Spin.
Yeah, no, yeah, Mortal Spin's there. You do have Heavy Slam from Dondozo, but a plus
I feel
1
like
Heavy
you died of
Slam
that.
is, a plus 1 Heavy Slam is going to do too much for you to get too much out of your Weakness Policy outside of a plus 2 Quick Attack. I think you might live 1 Heavy Slam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But no, that's the thing is this team is so cool. We didn't even talk about the Adrenaline Orb on Gyarados that just lets it beat this Arcanine. Not beat, you're still taking the attack drop from Intimidate, but now you're faster, you can taunt it, you can Waterfall, get some Kian flinches, or get fast and set your Sunny Day for your, critically hitting Heat Waves.
Oh my goodness, that's what Sunny Day is for.
Yeah, I think
Volcarona isn't even running a fire move. Shout out support Volcarona.
We love support Volk.
We do.
Love support Volk. But with that, we are going to go now out of week 2 and into week 3, talking about some of the transactions, not some of, but all of the transactions that were made across the league. This is them in chronological order. And we did include timestamps for this Stonejourner, a free agent for all of 56 minutes, because Chris pounced on it, and I think that is the pickup for me, the pickup of the week. The Duraludon, Chris, you had mentioned, kind of overlaps a lot of the times with what it wants to do with the Bronzong. Both of them are phenomenal Iron Defense Body Press Mons. Of course, Duraludon, Eviolite, it's bulkier, it can hit specially as well. Doesn't set Trick Room like Bronzong does, but both steel types, there's a lot of overlap in what they're best in.
Yeah.
And so
I
now you just get a mon that makes you the rest of your team scarier. I'm so sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. I like the reason I picked Rowlet in the first place was to have an Iron Defense Body Presser. I already had one, obviously, and I was a little salty that I got Archaludon taken from me, so I took the baby. But found out it really doesn't do much that Bronzong doesn't do. And I figured Sojourner just got dropped. It feels like a really good fit on the team for certain situations where there's a lot of like heavy hitters on the team, but just having a life orb Pokemon, basically. Like, I can just have an item and have a life orb next to me, and that's gonna be doing insane damage. So I'm excited to see how that's gonna help the team in the future.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Stonejourner pickup here. Like you said, I was skeptical of the Duraludon pickup at first, but I'm glad that you not only managed to pick up something very good for your team, but also freeing up some more points for you to be able to make another trade later on in the season. Looking at these other trades, I think Talonflame is the largest point mon to be dropped just yet, and like it kind of makes sense. I feel like Talonflame, it's a priority Tailwind setter, but 17 points is I don't know. I think it's a bit too pricey for a mon like that. And then Lapras, rest in peace. But welcome Drifblim and Hawlucha to the Waltham Watchogs. I do think Hawlucha is a really cool mon, especially for Ronald's team, because you can just run Psychic Seed on Burden, and then boom, fastest mon ever. There's a lot that can be done with that mon. Oh, Drifblim does the same thing. That's crazy. They both have on Burden. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Very
these are
interesting.
great pickups for Ronald. I do think that if someone has the points for it, that Talonflame in the right system could be crazy. I think Lapras too, less of a Pokemon that needs a well-built team around it. But for anyone who's looking for a bulky water and some ice type coverage with all the dragons that are in this format, Lapras at 3 points is a steal.
Yeah.
That is nuts. If I could fit it on my team, I already would have. But yeah, I think Lapras becoming a free agent and not being picked up the rest of the week is a little bit surprising to me. But I think once somebody figures out how they're going to squeeze it on their roster, it's going to do some really, really cool things.
I'll be honest. I'm looking at, so I noticed the Meowstic getting dropped for the Elumize. And I've been looking through like the move set, seeing like, oh, maybe there's a really good reason for this. I'm honestly, I'm a little, I think, confused because like the only, actually, yeah, the only move that I noticed right off the bat that Illumise gets that Meowstic doesn't is Encore. A Prankster Encore is always very nice. I was just surprised because Meowstic has so many like good prankster moves. It has screens. It has trick, which they both do have trick. The other one that I did just see that actually might make a pretty good case is attract. A nice prankster attract might
I mean,
be
the big
pretty
one is
good.
Tailwind.
And
Yeah,
Tailwind,
Tailwind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's
so yeah, I
also
did miss Tailwind.
I was gonna say, if we're talking about the big one, Chris.
yeah. You can also get really cute and do like Tail Glow Baton Pass, but in this economy, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's gonna hold up.
Ooh,
You could do,
Illumise does not get Tail Glow.
Oh, it doesn't?
It is
Right, Chris?
indeed a fraud, actually. I think that's Volbeat
I
only.
think,
Volbeat gets Tail Glow.
Yeah.
Illumise gets Fake Tears, though, I
Yeah.
believe.
yeah,
I
it
think
doesn't
Volbeat
get
is-
Tail Glow. I
Man.
see.
Yeah. I played
Interesting.
Reg C or Reg E. No, never mind, because they weren't illegal in Reg C. They're in Kitakami.
Greg E, someone did bring an Illumise on
Yeah.
stream at a regional. That was crazy.
That's what I'm saying. And there's difference because you bring Illumise to fake to your stuff. You bring Volbeat to tail
To
glow
tail
baton
glow
pass.
baton pass stuff. Mm.
Okay, so I guess I didn't see Tailwind at first, so that makes a lot more sense. I do think like they do get pretty similar moves. Like you still get the weather, you still get sunny day and rain dance. You only get light screen and no reflect. So I don't know if that's I mean Tailwind does seem more valuable than that. But yeah, I'm interested to see.
I see the vision, but I think I need to see it first.
Yeah.
Like I can see obviously like good move pool, like obviously great prankster utility mon, pretty bulky actually, but I want to see it work. Like obviously it's a good prankster mon. It's pure bug. That's it. I believe it's pure bug.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like Meowstic is a extremely useful utilmon, and dropping it for, I don't want to say a dumbed down version of itself, with like a worse typing arguably. I don't know. I gotta see it work first.
I'm on the other side. I like this a lot because it is, to me, you're just getting a better version. Because now you actually do have Tailwind. I believe we can double check rosters. Actually, I can do that now. I believe that prior to this pickup, the only Tailwind setter on Sam's team was Salamence. So now you have a much more reliable Tailwind, and Salamence is kind of on that. Yes, you can run Tailwind on it. It's base 100, so it's going to outspeed most of the things in this format. But if you're running Tailwind, that means you don't get to go Dragon Cheer. It means you don't get to go Protect or your Flamethrower as your coverage move. Salamence wants to run so many moves, just period, but especially as kind of like the centerpiece of Sam's team, that freeing up the Tailwind duties over to Lumise, I think is great for him. The Meowstic, he could have done some cool, Meowstic gets skill swaps. You could do some cool skill swap stuff with your, I don't know, man, the Sarina, the Rotom to get priority Will-O-Wisps. You can skill swap Prankster onto Clefairy, gets Prankster.
Ooh.
Getting a Prankster Tailwind, and getting it at the same price as just another Prankster, I think is a good pickup. Just flat.
Another thing I wanted to talk about. I wish my feeble mind could comprehend the moves that Rockwell is making right now, but I just can't. I mean, I haven't been looking at much footage of Rockwell's matches in particular. I don't know why Gudra's underserving enough to warrant this trade, but there is a lot going on with this team, and it's the one that I understand the least. I don't know if you guys have any insight on that one.
I don't think anybody's got great insight onto Rockwell's team. I will say I'm a little bit surprised to see Gudra get dropped, just because to me it is still a pretty good value in drafts. It's the mascot of the team. I can definitely see Rockwell. I can definitely see Rockwell doing some crazy shenanigans with, double dance to Dunsparce. You run like coil not rock polish. I think it's coil agility or coil calm mind. Something like that. The Orthworm is really going to, I think, facilitate that as well with the Dunsparce. I think those two Pokemon pair pretty well together outside of the shared fighting weakness. I don't know. Rockwell's team, he's got 1 million support mons and a Excalibur. And I just wish that there were more things on this team that did damage. Yes, he's going to be able to pass substitutes to a Swords Dance Excalibur. I guess a Shift Gear Toxtricity, but I don't know.
There's so much you could do to stop that. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also so many things that Rockwell can do. I just really don't want to pass any judgment on his team because it scares me. I don't want to think about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like going against this, like the best way I could characterize this is like very stoppable force against an object that very much could move. You just have no idea what to expect when you go into a Rockwell match, I feel like.
I'm not looking forward to week 8.
I'm not looking forward to week, what am I, 6? I think 6.
Well, we can look at the schedule right now.
Oh.
Because real quick, just to close it
Oh,
out,
no.
recapping week 2. Thankfully, you all are welcome for breaking the left side curse
Wait, I don't pick Rockwell.
for week
Oh,
2.
my bad. Thought I did.
But
anyways,
we are kind of already went through a lot of these results. But AJ did get the win over Alex, despite the great prep. Charlotte 2-0 to Curry Puff. Anthony in a 3-game set over Oxygen. I was able to beat Mohammed in 3 games, and then a lot of 2-0s in this stretch of the schedule. I think after week 2, take a look at the standings. We can go to 80%. Oh, not 500.
I'm not looking.
Well, Chris, you're not at the bottom, which is
Yeah.
that's the important first step.
That is very important.
Looking
You're
at the
number 1 in the
standings,
power rankings called my heart.
I think for the most part, our preseason power rankings were pretty good. I'm just going to say that. I think as of now, there hasn't been there has been one crazy thing that's happened, but outside of that, I think it's been pretty
I agree.
pretty
Yeah.
good.
I agree on both of those.
There is an elephant in the room, but the elephant will not be addressed.
That big old elephant in the 13th place, we'll check back in a couple of weeks, and it'll be right back up in the top 4.
Because here's the thing.
About that.
Here's the thing with that team is you saw what I had to do in order to win against it. Like, that was quite literally my counterplay. It's so strong.
It's so strong.
I had to play to my outs, and my outs were, I'm gonna buy a lottery ticket after this episode.
Did you though?
I'm about to, after we record this.
Let's go
I'll get
gambling!
$15 million bajillion dollars.
I don't know. The luck might have run out by this point.
Arcanine will not have to pay rent anymore. Except I would like it to. Those Rock Slide Flinches were very nice.
Despicable. Heinous way to play Pokemon. Cutest team's in 3rd place. That's really all that matters. But closing out the show, now that we've seen the standings, we know where everybody's at. I think it's time for a very important discussion. Do we have to touch the John tier?
I say, let's give it. You know what? I've seen Alex's performance. Let's put John in the middle of S tier, simply because of the team. I think the John tier should be abolished. For now, we don't know in the coming weeks if John could come back, have a miraculous oh hey, by the way, I'm in playoffs now. I don't know. I gotta be real. It's a great team, awesome archetype. But with that being said, I think it might be time for the John tier to go.
Yeah, I think unless in order to earn this tier above all the rest back, you would have to get honestly 6 2-0s in a row. It's just in order to have this tier above all the rest, and then just I don't know, it was a very tough week 1 for him, and then week 2, I mean, he got the bad luck out of the way, thankfully.
Hopefully,
we'll see what continues to happen, but I do agree with that tier. That tier can get put on the back burner for now. I'm comfortable putting that mid S, which is still frankly very, very good. Please do not feel disrespected by this.
I was going to say maybe even jump down to A, because again, you have to respect the team, but I don't know.
I could see an angle for A, because I think the thing is, I don't know if it was solely because of my team, but I think there are a lot of techs that can be put on teams in order to counter the strongest modes, like a surprise safety goggles, any sort of damage reduction, something like a trace Porygon 2 to copy the strong abilities and reveal tech. I don't know. I think that you can adapt to it for the week of your match pretty well, because you can kind of expect what's going to get brought against you. That this
Right.
case can be made for like any team. It feels like most strong in John's case.
That's fair. I feel pretty comfortable putting it right behind the team that just beat him this past week.
I'll let you make that decision because I've gone through so much with my team today alone.
And who's to say? Maybe we'll see an upset, a little leapfrog, someone claiming that John, not John tier by the end of the season. We'll see.
Mm.
I want to keep the John tier.
Yeah,
I
we'll
think
keep the tier.
No team's in it right now. We're keeping the John tier though.
Yeah.
If we wanted to talk about another switch,
yeah.
I was thinking we move the Azalea Amphiroses to like top of B.
That was going to be my other one. Is
Mm.
I do want to take a lot of ownership there. I was disrespecting this team heavy at the beginning of the season, and they've just shown us only good things.
Yeah. Now that
Yeah.
they've shown us that they don't need the Dondozos Hatsugiri. Like,
As soon as I start using it, I'm putting him back in D tier. But right now, great
Right
team.
now, I'm good. I think. Is it only fair that we put all the teams without wins in the same tier?
I think the Macho Mudkips can go in John tier.
maybe by the end of the season.
I don't know, because I mean, it's tough. I also don't want to leave Rockwell alone down there.
That's the other
That
thing.
just feels targeted.
I feel bad that Rockwell's alone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know we did just literally do this for John, but I do think it is like a case of like the quality of the actual team versus how it's actually being played. But like it is a pretty good balance, I guess, for the ranking. I think it is pretty reasonable.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did slide cycling Cyclozars down a little bit. If just to keep Rockwell company in C tier.
Yeah.
If
Who
that is
knows? Maybe he'll
amenable.
just smoke me this week and move right back up, and then I can join Rockwell.
I think if nothing else, it is our duty to give some build board material, some bulletin board
Mhm.
material to these teams. So we got to move somebody down.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
I'll
comfortable
say
with this little symmetrical tier list we got going on.
Yeah, why does it look like that?
All right, we
I
need
feel
another
good about
change.
it.
You need to go to
My-
bed.
My last pitch, and I need you all to take this walk with me, is these two teams at the bottom of A tier. I think they stay in this order. I think these two teams could move up a little bit, not to S, but I think these two teams could move up in A tier a little bit.
I see top of A tier. Like, I do think the
Yeah.
top teams in A tier are definitely those two and the Toronto Toads. AJ's team is very strong right now.
Which
Yeah.
seems super good.
I would say like middle of A seems pretty reasonable.
I need you to tell me, Chris, exactly where I'm going to put my team. I need you.
Go
to
ahead.
I
Say above.
think-
Go ahead. Say above us. Go ahead.
Tell me where in the middle.
Yeah,
of A
come on,
tier.
Chris. Come on.
I mean, I'm gonna go use the bathroom, guys. I don't know. The A tier definitely feels the most like kind of like up in the air. Like once you get to that higher middle tier, things
I'll say if
definitely
we had
become more.
if we had an A plus tier, it would be AJ, the St. Louis Sandshrews, and the Ruthless Righteous. I think those are like the top three in this tier.
I agree with that.
In literally any order. But those seem like distinct.
I kind of I want to see more out of the Ruthless Righteous. I know
Yeah,
obviously
they can be the bottom of the three.
Yeah. I think that works. I'm not opposed to that.
I am in the same boat. It's not just because it's two people playing one team, but
It's one person, and we know who it is.
That's true. We do love corrosion, but like, I don't know. I think they clearly have been good, been dominant in the first couple of weeks. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff in the tape that I think we can poke some holes in. So I think these next couple of weeks are going to be pretty important for the Ruthless Righteous. I think a couple of prove me weeks coming up ahead. And then week 4, that game against me and John, I've had that circled already.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a pretty big one.
The bloodbath.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of good matches coming up, especially during this like mid-season, because this is really what sets apart like the people who are going to lock playoffs potentially, and the people who are going to have to work much harder towards the end of it.
I'm very scared for my match this week. It's the battle, the rain teams. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like anything can happen this week. These are a lot of like very, I feel like very equal teams going against each other. Like everyone feels like the consistency of their teams is kind of in the same lane as each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, this is a gauntlet. It's a gauntlet for everybody.
Hmm.
I'm so excited. I love this league.
So what happens when you try to host a draft league in New England?
Too many good people.
Nobody is your friend and everybody's your enemy.
I hate you guys.
Yeah, screw you, dude.
I still love y'all. I don't know. Like
I'm
that's just where I'm at.
joking. I'm joking. I love you guys.
But it does feel like that's gonna be the end of our show. So
Mhm.
again, thank you all taking this long journey with us over the last hour-ish. Um, yeah, hit the comments down below. Let us know who are we disrespecting, who are we respecting too much. There's a strong option for that one. But I think really what it boils down to is I hope we just all have fun. Yeah, as the stands get a little bit closer, I hope we just all have a good time. And also I hope that I continue to not lose games, because that makes me happy. That's how I have fun. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Follow Anthony, follow Kian, follow Chris. I'll see y'all next week.
Bye bye.